The Leadville Historic Preservation Commission meeting for July 23rd, 2024 was called to order at 4:03 p.m. Can we get a roll call, please?
Commissioner Edwards.
Here.
Chair Spillman.
Here.
Vice Chair Whittington.
Here.
Commissioner Franco.
Here.
Alternate Flanagan. Alternate Mercado. You do have 4.
Okay. Are there any revisions to the agenda for today?
I want to give a report on behalf of the HPC. I can either please do it under housekeeping or under updates or.
All right. Housekeeping sound good? Housekeeping, Steve report. Okay, anything else?
Don't think so.
Okay, then could I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Edwards moves to approve the agenda.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right, we do not have it on the agenda, but I believe we need to approve the minutes from the July 9th meeting.
This stuff may, I had them out there in the packet because I was trying to finish them up, and David did me a huge favor and threw the packet together.
Oh.
I probably wouldn't have put the minutes in, but I want you to look, everything is good, but the part about the COA, I didn't fill in any of the detail.
Oh, just so and so presented, so and so
Yeah.
presented.
That's the part that I think that if you want to go ahead and approve,
We shouldn't.
I wouldn't.
Okay,
I mean, I would just rather have them doing.
It goes here, so it's important that they do.
okay, we will postpone that then until the minutes are full and detailed.
Can I make one quick comment on them?
Please.
I did notice that you had Mick Lindquist as absent on the first page, and then you had him as making a motion on the second page.
I think he decided that.
Maybe that.
Oh.
Because he was already gone. So, okay, I'll make a note to look at that. Like I said, I wasn't prepared for them to be put in the packet, but I'm certainly.
Yeah, but good to take a look at them. Yeah. Thank you, Lauren. Let's see, any public comment on items not on the agenda?
He's here, can't be.
Oh, okay. My name is Steve Prentice, 131 East Third Street. I did not talk to this property owner as a member of the HBC, but I did talk to him about the historical thing. But so I talked to sometime in the past. I brought up the sandstone salting and assaulting with ice chopping things in front of the Scarlet, and I mistakenly said there wasn't a damage in front of the back annex. I think there is. Anyway, I talked to Jeff of the Scarlet, and we talked about that a little bit. So I think this is and there's also down at the Tabor, there seems to be some damage too. I think with the salt. So I think this the Tabor Opera House. I think this was the older owners never used salt, and they took care of the shoveling and things like that. And now it's kind of an intermittent thing where they get somebody, yeah, sure, I'll do it. And then so there's quite a bit of damage, especially from the start. So I don't know if we need to make a policy or an advisement or something to people that have those sandstone slabs. Otherwise, they're gonna get chewed up, and then at some point they won't want to. And it's incredibly horrible, the state of the concrete inside of the Scarlet on the north side. And he said there's quite a bit of snow. When they do the ice thing, they let the ice go up and over from the street onto that. They don't do a very good job of cleaning the ice there in the winter. And he said that's damaging that also. So,
May I respond to that?
Oh, sure.
Just to clarify, so that's the American National Bank building. It's the sandstone bank down on the corner there. And I saw exactly what you're talking about this winter. They were using ice picks to chip away at the ice because they were negligent in clearing the snow as it's coming down. And they caused a lot of damage to the sandstone slab sidewalks. Those are some of the last sandstone slab sidewalks we have in the city, but at one time they were prevalent downtown. So I spoke with Amy Tate, who's the manager of that building. The owner of the building is Climax. And the managers of the building are Climax, but they use Amy Tate as Centennial. And I did speak with her directly about that damage. And they did tone it down toward the end of the winter. But there was an awful lot of damage done before any notice was taken. Because of all the ice and snow, nobody could see what was happening to the sandstone. But at least it's been initially addressed, but it would be a nice thing to follow up on that particular block. You're 100% right.
Yeah, I think the previous owners were on top of it, where they,
Much better
And
than
now-
this time.
it's all different.
Well, and the CSOs have to give notice for the cars to move so that the streets department can clear the snow. That didn't happen this winter, so they didn't clear the snow on the north side of the building, and the ice and snow did build up. It was treacherous all the way through May on the north side of the building there. So we're trying to train the CSOs for that. I have talked to the managers of that property about the snow removal and the ice removal, and trying not to use salt, absolutely. So we're trying to address that, and people are aware of it.
Can I confirm the buildings, you basically it's the main building, the Scarlet at Tabor Opera House, the main.
All same building, it's the old American Bank on, and what is that, the 300 block, Harrison Avenue?
Son, 3 to 4.
Yes.
3 to 4. Okay.
And then it does carry on around the Tabor, but the damage there was much less than it is on that north south on the American Bank, so.
Thank Annex Bill. And, but,
The managers of that block.
yeah. But not the, Scarlet one. Okay,
No, you're correct, thank you.
okay, and the other thing at the table, they, to make the scaffolding stable, they drilled holes into the, sandstone and put bolts.
That scaffolding has been red tagged by the county planning department, but I don't know if that was part of the red tag. I would assume it would be, because you're not supposed to do that on anything with next.
Okay, so we'd have to epoxy that, if that's gonna be.
It allows for water intrusion, you're right. No. But the county planning department has absolutely put eyes on that scaffolding. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, are there regulations about sidewalks in terms of their historic character, anything that we can do or sort of say as a commission regarding that?
It's not really within our.
Yeah, we
our
deal with sort of
guidelines.
built things rather than flat things.
Right.
I suppose.
You know, typically the jurisdiction of the streets department. That'd be interesting. I mean, our Harrison Avenue is like that. Modeled after the Secretary of Interior standards,
Mhm.
but there have been updates to the Secretary of Interior standards since Harrison Avenue government were adopted. It would be interesting to do a review of the SOIs to see if there are any related, and there certainly are some related sites. I don't know how much that extends into the public rights to mitigate for a sidewalk.
Yeah.
Flat, essentially.
Yeah, I know in the street department part of the code, it doesn't address that at all. It addresses clearing your sidewalk and stuff like that on them, but it doesn't address any kind of historic sidewalk or any guidelines to. When
When we were addressing public seating at the restaurants, at that time, it was considered private property for the building owners.
Okay, yeah,
Not purview of the street.
okay. So they're part of their parcel.
I mean, it'd be within their right, it'd be within the city's right. Maintenance can be separate, than ownership.
Oh,
And maintenance in the city of Leadville for the sidewalk in front of your business is specifically laid at the feet of the business owner.
It is.
Not the city.
Exactly.
The city's maintenance stops at the curb.
Although the right of way boundary will always be the city's ownership.
yeah,
And the sidewalk is technically a city owned right of way with the understanding that the owner business maintains. So it's a very slippery slope.
yeah. You have something more to add, Steve?
When I talked to the owner of Scarlet, Jeff said that in Denver, his neighbor, anyway, collected all these sandstone slabs because whatever part of the city he lives in, they found it was federally illegal to have those sandstone slabs because they're uneven and they don't, they're not, handicap, friendly.
Yeah, yes.
So they took all these up and this guy ended up with a whole bunch of them in his yard. You give. So that might be an update.
something we need to think about too, because we're, I don't want just because we're already in some of the.
Probably in
You have to be
violation.
way because of ADA and getting compliant, then if you don't,
Yeah, change it.
rehabilitate or
yeah.
change at that point, then you're not held to that, and unless you do something to change it, and then you're held, so you should shut down.
But that, thank you, Stephen. That will be something for us to just kind
Yeah.
of keep an eye on this coming winter and see how it's addressed. And
Correct, because it's anything wrong with the HPC writing a letter requesting they think about not putting some, just a nice friendly, hey, we've got some historic type sidewalks. Maybe consider not telling them what to do, but maybe just letting them know and maybe that can get us somewhere. I don't know, just thought that.
And this area, they weren't aware that they were getting any sidewalks.
That's what I'm thinking about the other buildings that you could speak to, is maybe a nice letter, a nice thing. Pretty historic, would you mind not being solved, and something to that effect.
All right.
Might be something you could do.
yeah, so when the first snow comes in like September.
But we
Say that.
don't need
Yeah.
Quick search of all 172 pages of the.
Sidewalk mentions.
There's 5 times, but nothing in context of the.
Okay, just sort of passing mentions of sidewalks.
Yeah.
All right, all good to know. And we can keep an eye out this fall and winter.
yeah.
Housekeeping items, CLG discussion. Oh, any other public comments? Okay, hearing none, housekeeping items, CLG discussion on sugar beet. Was that just sort of an
That
FYI?
was an FYI. I bet it-
Yeah. Yeah, that's a Eastern Plains.
So I thought, we know the stuff.
Yeah, it was a huge thing in like Weld County and Eastern stuff.
There's Silver Plume, they went to Eldona and did sugar beets. One of them's that, so they were within the history.
Yeah, the whole.
So no, there's nothing.
Okay, thank you. Then Steve, your report?
Actually, Alan GNF from CBS Colorado interviewed me out on Harrison. We stood in front of, or across the street from the Tabor Opera House for quite a while. And then we walked up and down Harrison, and the photographer was taking pictures of the historic buildings, as Alan and I talked and described what was going on. It's for a show that comes out irregularly, as far as I can tell. He's done similar shows on various towns around Colorado. I think maybe we're going to be about the 5th place he's done. And the idea, I don't even know what the show is called, but the idea is that he looks at what towns are doing that are examples that other places might follow. And so I think he got in touch with Joey first, maybe.
Yeah, he's been trying to get a hold of me for a while, and there was just no way for me to meet with him, so I referred him to you. I appreciate it. Alan is with CBS News here in Colorado, and I'm trying to remember the name of his show, but it's small Colorado towns. I think he very recently did one on Salida. It is video, so is broadcast. Your reporter behind the story with Alan GNA is where that comes from, but yeah, CBS Colorado is who he's affiliated with, so thank you very much.
So I talked a lot about what the HBC does and about the history of Leadville and what we're trying to preserve. And I know I got the period of significance wrong. I hope I didn't get too much else wrong, but when you're just talking in front of the camera, you don't have a lot of time to do research.
The intention of that piece, and I don't know whether he even told you that, but the intention of the piece is to talk about the challenges of historic renovation and historic preservation in a town like Leadville that is starting to be discovered and a lot of new people coming into town that are not from this area and an old historic town that has been kind of recently discovered. That was the basis behind this article and the reason for the interview. So thank you again.
Will they notify anyone when and if it airs?
I'm sure he'll let me know.
He
And
said
I'll
he'd
let
let
everybody
me
know.
know, but
Absolutely.
he doesn't know how long it's gonna take to put it together and then have it there. But he talked to me for about an hour, and then I dropped him off at the Tabor Opera House because somebody who was on the staff there was just on the way in, and he thought that it would be a good idea to talk to somebody from that project if he could. And I don't know whether, he might even come back and talk to other people around town. But it was unclear.
Yeah.
Depends on how much he is able to use what I said.
And Scott, I would have sent that to you, but he called and said, I'm gonna be there tomorrow. Can you meet? I was in BV working on a project and I knew Steve would be in town, so
Yeah, that is.
thank
great.
you again.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. That sounds fantastic.
Oh, and he didn't want to.
That's okay, chicken dinner.
That's right.
Okay, then moving on to updates, historic walking tour development.
I had a great meeting with Stephanie and Jade Lewandowski, who's with O'Rourke Media out of Chicago last week. I think we just kind of laid our cards out on the table, and I think we've come to a verbal agreement on how this could work. With us being able to utilize their copywritten material, while at the same time having the ability to make some edits and additions and do things our way. The material's still theirs, but additions we're gonna make can be ours. I've also talked to Jennifer, who I think is willing to help us with her crew at the library in terms of adding additional photographs or adding some additional information. So I would like to bring the library in as a partner on this project overall, if people think that's acceptable, but I think you guys would be a fantastic partner in it, along with the paper and Main Street. So I am anticipating getting a draft copy of a contract they want us to enter into about this by the end of this week or next. But if it goes as we discussed, I think it'll be fantastic. Everybody's happy now. The tension's kind of gone from some of the earlier discussions, and I think we'll be able to move forward. So
Do you think we'll be able to vote on this at the next meeting, or is that something, and look at the contract? I mean, we'll have to obviously have our legal look over the contract, and if we're gonna go into a contract, we might need a resolution. So I'm just wondering when we should put this on our agenda, because once we approve it, it's gonna have to go to city council. Right? Am I wrong?
Yeah, typically, if the city is signing a contract with the city administrator, the city council has to authorize her to sign a contract, be a resolution. And we have templates for resolutions, sometimes we can generate those without having the city attorney draft it.
That's true. But the contract usually has to be local.
Yeah.
By our legal.
well, I'd like to say next month, but just bear with me a little bit till I see if I actually get something this week.
And what I will do is keep it where it's at, because I keep it on an update. If it needs to be moved to an action item, then we can definitely do that, but I'll put it on the agenda as an update for next time. And we'll go from there.
Yeah, the amount might be on the level, but still isn't contracted that today.
Right, just because we're gonna be signing a contract, I will have them.
They just want to protect their copywritten material and not have us take it and migrate it to another app and disregard them as a partner. And I think that's all fine. We just didn't want to get to the point where we can't add some of our own information
Right.
beyond what they have. For example, we might want to list the architectural style of the building or point out some unique feature of a window, a cornice, and if they're going to limit us to not doing that, I think we need to do this another direction, but I think we're going to be okay.
And I know that in previous meetings and talking through this, you had mentioned that with other companies, one of your questions was, do we, is that our material, or does it belong to, the app itself? And then, so you're okay with us not owning the material that's in there?
Well, we wouldn't own the material that the paper has produced and given us.
Okay,
Anything we add to it we could take at a later date and use it. And the app company doesn't own anything, they could have the
To
app.
clarify your question, this particular app company doesn't own any of the proprietary.
Okay, there's gonna be putting paper in there.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah, the app is just a pass-through on this one, so we're not downloading something that's in public domain, it's still going to us.
Still our, okay.
Any other questions or comments about Storing Walking Tour? All right, thank you for staying on top of that.
we're getting there,
It
we're getting there.
it has proven to be longer and more complicated than I think we imagined. Then next is the tax credit workshop. I emailed everybody, but last time we decided on September 24th. Unfortunately, that didn't work for Sarah at History Colorado, but September 10th did. Unfortunately, that means we will miss Steve, who will be gone. But I think it will be good to have, History Colorado do their song and dance about it, and provide some authoritative information. So if Stuart, not to put more on your plate, but if you want to be in charge of marketing again and sort of reprise.
Well, Jennifer will help
And
me.
Jennifer, yeah,
She's
And you were gonna do.
gifted at making flyers and whatnot, we'll talk to the paper.
yeah.
Joey agreed to write a press release, so
All
we'll
right.
get that with him, and
The sooner you can give me enough information to do that, I'll send it over to Donna and get it written.
so I may need to talk to you offline and
Sure,
get some.
yeah. Oh, wait, sounds good.
So we have a date for that and we need to work on
So
flyers.
On marketing, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and she also said that it would be, I told her that we had like 40 people for the Researching Your Home workshop. And she said that with that number, if we got a turnout like that, it would make the most sense to focus on just residential for the time being, so that she can do a lot more one-on-one work with people, answering questions and so on. And then hold off on commercial until a later date. So,
I'll be honest about what a long time it takes to go through the process. I submitted an preliminary application in April. And I had to hound her a week or two ago, a couple of times. I've finally been verbally told that it was approved, but it was awaiting signature. I still have not gotten it. My project's done now.
Wow.
And just the state government moves at an incredibly slow pace.
yeah, that is good to know.
How do you feel about interpretation? Is that something we should be doing for this or not? Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I broke the connection.
is there anybody in the library that is bilingual that would be available?
We need to put this sort of skills.
Right.
Interpretation. Staff, but really people around town that ask about it, that we sort of ask for information.
So the reason I bring that up is because obviously my other side gig is the fire, and we had several events. We spent almost $500 on interpretation and needed it. And it's not cheap, and you actually, we're finding out that we need to budget for that. If we're gonna have events that have that, you have to budget for that, because it's not just a offhanded expense, it really adds up, and you gotta pull money from another place to cover it. So I'm just asking, because that's something that we've been really trying to do, is be very, but we're also talking about residential tax credits, and I just don't know. That's why I have to.
Would it be worth taking a look at the number, seeing how much is in our budget and what it would cost to have somebody here for an hour or two? And make an informed decision. based
And
on-
I would think, but cheapest I think I could get
Mhm,
is $140 for 2 hours.
yeah,
That's cheap, and we do have that money in the budget. I'm just,
How about in the promotional materials, we put a statement saying if you need any accommodation for language Or, you know, if you need somebody to come and do sign language, because that's another
I
aspect,
absolutely agree with that.
then please let us know.
I think
And
that's
then
what
if
we-
you don't hear anything back, then we can probably safely not spend that money.
But at least we've made that effort. I think that's where I'm lost is how do we make the effort but not pay for something we're not using because it's ending up being quite a bit of money that you put on. And if it's not utilized, yes, it was available, but I like that idea of, you know, letting us know. And that way we could have someone here if it was needed, and if it's not needed, we didn't go to that expense.
And you could sort of tentatively line people up and tell them that if, you know, reserve this night in case we need you, but we might not. And they're probably going to be willing to do that.
Yeah, does that sound like a good idea?
I think that's a great idea, and Jennifer went away, and I know, and you know, people that could be cheaper than what
I think what you, that's the biggest initiative.
that's the cheapest one I thought, and so
Yeah.
under that.
I can talk to Susan Fishman. and
I mean, that's who I talked to,
Okay.
all the fire departments, that's who I've been working with, and we've got, we used Ann Lee through the county. I mean, she actually worked for the county in the DHS department, and it still costs $140.
Would it be worthwhile to reach out to Full Circle or to C4 with their housing initiatives and see if they could provide a bilingual person just to attend? Because they have access to bilingual people in both programs and they both do housing initiatives. So this at least is minorly tied to that. Maybe if you reach out to them and see if somebody would be willing to attend on their behalf, we could put them on the flyer, but then they could also potentially be able to answer questions in Spanish or what have you.
Yeah, I certainly think it would be worth reaching out to them to try to reach an audience. I don't wanna use somebody and not pay them.
Oh, excuse me.
That makes sense.
No, understood.
Yeah,
And you're not gonna find any cheaper than that, honestly.
And I have so far.
What about asking the state
And I
to
will,
bring someone?
yeah, I could reach out and see whether,
that's worth asking, and we'll reach out to, C4 and Full Circle and just let them know what we're doing and see what they have. If they have somebody in mind that can come to that, but then otherwise, if I could do that, I could reserve one with the understanding that it may or may not happen, but at least I have one as a backup, and the most we would hopefully be paid $40.
That does go toward our CLG.
Right.
Mhm.
And we said we wanted to be more, you know, inclusive, and that, you know, we talked about that in the past, it's just. Either we need to make sure we budget for something like this, or make sure we really need it before we pay for it.
yeah. Yeah, that sounds good. So I can reach out to History Colorado to see if they would have potentially a translator available. And we can also plan to use Steve's idea and say, you know, if you need translation assistance, interpretation, anything like that, please let us know so that we can see how we could potentially cover
I
our
think that's a
bases
great
if
idea.
necessary.
Great.
All right. Any other questions or comments about the tax credit workshop?
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Is it just forms? Because we talked about housing in the county, just in the historic tax credits.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, residential preservation tax credit program. Okay, then moving on, July 16th, Planning Department City Council monthly report.
So this may have been. This is 4 pages, so again, we're doing this. We have been for 2 years now, once a month, giving city council an update on the planning department. And this is organized by application type, So I think one of the main updates is that the Bachman residence, ADU was approved at city council, as recommended by HPC with the conditions of approval. So that went well. And in terms of, other certificate of appropriateness in process. We have the freight boxcars. I think I paid HPC last time that was approved. And we have some administrative COAs. Some of these are enforcement related. 524 West Chestnut Street. Essentially, we received a complaint regarding citing replacement without a COA. The CSOs responded to that. Property owner came in and was cooperative. They said we did not know that we needed a permit for this siding replacement. Some siding that had already been taken off the building, and they were, in some portions, had already started weatherproofing the building. I was able to get them into compliance with getting COA retroactively, not necessarily, evaluating the siding that was being removed, that had already been removed, but in terms of the siding that was going back. So I felt like that was good that we were able to turn that around, get compliance. Let's see here. And I still have a couple violation related I guess COAs that people have retroactively submitted a COA after the CSOs have conducted, we received a complaint, CSOs have conducted enforcement. And I give comments to the applicant, and this could be, you pay your application fee, or you need to, you need to specify something in your application form and haven't been able to receive those. So I'm just tracking those, and those will get to a point where we'll have to follow up with these property owners and say, you're still out of compliance, and so you'll be receiving a citation if you don't get that within a certain time period. And as it is related to the HPC, I think that is most of it. I just gave the HPC a summary of all the different zoning enforcement items, so we'll include COAs. And let the HPC or let the council know that the HPC had been appointed advisory member Rupo as our newest member. Congratulate her on that. And to the code amendments that we have coming down the line, I have updated the city council multiple times that staff is going to be working with the city attorney on an ordinance that would amend the code to allow HPC decisions, in addition to P&Z decisions, to go to city council on their consent agenda as decisions instead of recommendations. So therefore, the only public hearing that would be, there would not be a second public hearing required at city council unless city council says we have issue with this decision, we're going to call it up for a public hearing.
Well, it's a huge win.
I think that city council, some members of the city council have expressed their concern for just how much is going on at the city council level. Our meetings are very long. And with the COAs that are now required with code amendments passed last summer, some smaller projects definitely end up in public hearings at city council. And I think it's been agreed upon that we don't necessarily have public hearings at city council for these COA items. So city council would still reserve the right to make the final decision, but it would basically just be if they said, okay, we disagree, we're gonna call this up and start this application anew. So otherwise it would be HPC decisions would just appear on the consent agenda. Applicants would not have to appear for a second public hearing.
Have you talked to the city council about this?
Yeah,
They seem okay with that?
yeah.
Yeah.
So they're really testing or?
We've been working with them for a year and a half.
I probably
Sorry.
mentioned this to city council about 5 times.
Mhm.
And it's now, city council can't take action. I certainly present them with the opportunity to let me know if they have any concerns with that. But city council can't take an action until it's actually in front of them for ordinance. But involving opportunity, city council is not communicating any concern with that. Mayor and city manager also support this.
Does that make sense to everybody, what's going on? Yeah,
It's a benefit to city council and it's only fair to the applicant.
right.
To put them through it twice seems, especially if they're bringing
So
in,
unless it's something that is truly divisive,
right.
it's just approved and move on. So it means that council trusts our recommendation. That's a huge improvement over the last couple of years.
Now, there would be some applications that, if HBC was split on their decisions, this goes same thing for PNC. If they were split 4-3, say, like, there's not a lot of 7 members here, but, if there was a split decision, and there were, so, you know, the decision is heavily based on interpretations of the code. It's not something that's clearly spelled out. Staff would request that the city council call it up for a public hearing. You let the applicant know in advance, so you let the applicant know you can expect to schedule this for a second public hearing. But for most of the applications that are going through HBC and P&Z recommendations, the city council is approving without any issues. This would definitely be streamlining the process.
How would it work, as far as, say they want to pull it off the consent agenda, does pulling it off the consent agenda automatically trigger a public hearing, so it's gonna get rescheduled?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah,
And it's not even
I'm just-
necessarily rescheduled. They can still go on to that same.
Oh, it could be at that meeting, it could be at that,
No.
but no, then it's a public notice.
it would be, so it would be scheduled for approximately 5 weeks out, get all of it to the table. Yeah, so for most applications, you call it 85-90% of the applications plus, we expect it's gonna streamline the process. There will be applications that we're going to let the applicant know, hey, I think this is probably gonna be a contentious application. I think this deserves discussion at the city council level. You can expect the staff is going to request that this be called up for a middle hearing, so that the applicants know that from the get-go. But I think the whole goal is here is helping applicants and the commissions just kind of anticipating the process.
Thank you, Shane.
Sure.
Yeah, huge win for us.
Our comprehensive plan, my last update, comprehensive plan, is, those, conversations surrounding the 2025 comp plan update are, those have begun. There was a nonprofit group, that is interested in, assisting the city with comprehensive planning in partnership with Lake County. Came and gave a presentation to city council at the last meeting, and several city council members have reached out and started just providing stakeholder input to this nonprofit. I think staff is supportive of kind of this joint effort with the county in comprehensive planning, and is supportive of using this nonprofit for planning efforts. So no decisions have been made, but in a few months, the city council would have an opportunity to take action through a memorandum of understanding and a partnership agreement with this nonprofit. The name of the nonprofit is Community Builders. And they've done comprehensive plans for Silverton, Gunnison area, and they're very skilled at leveraging funding also, so that the city doesn't have to pay as much for comprehensive planning. So I think that is my planning department update for the month.
Any questions? All right, hearing none, I guess we can move on to new and continued business. Our work session on the Hatton Block window replacement at 616, 618 Harrison Avenue. Let's see, are we gonna do staff report and then applicant, or are we just gonna do an informal chat?
Yeah, so this is a work session, so it's informal. So we can do this really however the commission wants. Staff and kind of just cover the quick basics on what is proposed, what is existing, and the standards that you should consider. We can turn it over to the applicant to talk to you, vice versa.
I think it would be useful to have the sort of standards and framework
Okay.
established. You don't think so? Okay, let's do that.
See? So everyone, so plan one. Jake and I worked on this staff amendment together, just to gather some background information on this building and sort of standards surrounding actually on the boat. This is the Hatton Block Renewal Placement, 616 Harrison Avenue. The purpose of this work session is to conduct a preliminary review of the applicant's renewal placement plan to provide comments to the applicants to further consideration prior to formally applying for the required certificate of appropriateness or COA. The project description: remove the old and efficient windows that are in various states of disintegration. West elevation, remove and replace the 9 second floor windows. The west elevation faces Harrison Avenue, that Chapin has up on the screen right now. Remove and replace the 9 second floor windows with the new double hung aluminum clad windows. See attached factory specifications. We can get into that later. The intent is to get as close as possible to the same size, style, and depth. North elevation, which would be facing the Delaware Hotel on 7, which Chapin is there. Remove and replace the 6 visible second floor windows, as well as 2 windows that have been covered up on the second floor, with new double hung aluminum clad windows. On the east elevation, this would be towards the alley. So there's the east. Same sort of theme, removing and replace the second floor window with new double hung aluminum clad windows of the same style, with the back curved windows. And then finally, on the south side, same thing. Remove and replace the 2 full-size second floor windows with new double hung aluminum clad windows of the same size, style, and depth as the current windows. In addition, replace the 2 second floor windows that are blocked by the adjacent building roof with a window of the same width and style. We have a picture of the Manhattan building from about 1935 to 41. And this is where Chapin and I discovered the status of this building in the listed inventory as being non-contributing to the district. The reason for that is what's that? Yeah. This is considered non-contributing to the National Historic District and not immediately eligible for a National Historic listing. The survey notes extensive alterations to the facade occurred after the district's review period of significance and included metal paneling, vertical wood siding, as well as changes to the storefronts. And then beyond that, we did the standard sort of research and Sanborn maps and get a glimpse of the site's position over time. So we have Sanborn references from 1883, 86, 89, 1895, 1906, and 1937. The biggest thing to note as we look at all of these is the building sort of was built in 2 different phases. When we look at the Sanborn maps and the where it knows this, the shaded yellow areas indicate a wood frame structure, and the shaded red areas indicate a brick structure. And so the brick second section of the building didn't arrive on the so there are 2 separate sections of this building that both exist in our periods. We go on to some of this.
Sure, yeah, maybe just explain just the 3 categories of statements here. Yes, in your packet, we're just noting that there are 3 sets of standards that would be evaluated for this application. The first is shown here on the screen review procedures for issuing a COA. This is for everything except for demolitions. So you have standards 1 through 10 in our code. And then our code makes reference to the Harrison Avenue design guidelines. And they're just copy and pasted the text from just about a page and a half of guidelines within that handbook. And it's very general. It's basically covers all non-contributing structures. So it's just an excerpt from page 31 of that handbook. And I think in your page numbers are like, starts at the bottom of page 80 of your staff report there. And then we've also included the Secretary of Interior standards and guidelines, of course, the guidelines helping for standards, which also apply to Harrison design guidelines in theory are modeled to tailor those SOI standards for Harrison. So there's kind of the three sets of rules here that apply for kind of window restoration on Harrison. Talk about the key pieces of the evaluation.
We can jump through that. I think that's page 8, right, that we have on 1744.
Yeah.
050.
Yes.
Some of these were thoroughly inconclusive at this moment for workshop discussion. I think the main ones to sort of note, looking at section number 3, architectural changes that have taken place to a building since its construction. Often by our opinions of it in their own right is certainly recognized and respected. Again, the changes to this building happened after a period of significance, and so it's up to the commission to decide if any of the current exteriors are worth preserving in anything. Number 4 is distinctive stylistic features of skilled craftsmanship that characterize or are evidence on the will be treated with sensitivity and preserved whenever possible. I don't know if it's left on the Hatton building to this effect, but it's still worth noting. Number 5, deteriorated architectural features shall be repaired rather than replaced when possible. And when replaced, the new material shall match the material being replaced in position, color, texture, and stated insofar as feasible. Furthermore, staff cannot determine what's behind the current siding in the areas of the building question. It is hard to determine what the replacement would make, restoring any order architectural details that are possible. That's just we don't know what's behind the vertical boards on the front face around the Leadville Exchange storefront in particular. Number 6, cleaning and restoring material surfaces shall be undertaken with possible appropriate methods, just basically sensitivity to restoring and what will be restored. Under this, staff is aware that a bigger renovation of the building is going to work, perhaps replacing the curb before exterior renovation. Staff also has concerns about the window installation being satisfactorily weatherproof and sealed the sidings to be replaced in the near future. Those are the main items under 1744-050.
So I think from here, just, that's kind of staff job is to give the commission all the different rules that may apply for this type of project, but this is a work session, so I think that's probably as far as we should go at this point. Just turn it over to Bill to kind of just walk us through his intent for the project, and I think the key question that we can get to tonight is this something that the commission is supportive of before Bill submits a full COA application with the public hearing process?
Okay, well, that was pretty well done. Appreciate it. I think one place I'd like to start is with the photo from, I guess it's 1906 of the original building. That we, and so if you look at that building, compared to the building that we have today, obviously it's almost unrecognizable in terms of the first floor and the second floor. And when you say it was built in 2 different stages, it was actually 3 different stages. There's the gable roof, and then there is the storefront that was now the Leadville Exchange, and then there's the brick part, and actually maybe even
fourth stage, which is that shanty bill on the back that again, doesn't have any historical significance whatsoever. And the windows reflect that in terms of how like the windows in the part that is underneath the gabled roof. The ones that are original have a certain style, even the ones, the three to the far to the south of the front of the of the west side facing of that are actually slightly different than the other ones. And then you know, they don't appear different here, but if you expose the inner workings and so forth, they're obviously were installed at different times. On the west side of the or I mean, I'm sorry, on the north side of the buildings, that those windows are all none of those are original windows anymore. All of them are from different time periods. And when I say none, on the front, on the first construction of the north side, on the back side, they are original windows, but they are in, I think, irredeemable condition in terms of like they have gaps in between the window panes and the frames and so forth. And so the windows on these two sides don't match. The windows on these two sides don't match the windows that are on the east side, and those windows, and probably the most historic ones in the best condition, but on a wall that's going to have to be completely reconstructed, is on the south side, which is right there. You can see at the bottom of there. We will probably have to rebuild at least the first floor of that brick. Which is we're working on engineering plans for that at this time. So that's the second floor windows. Those are the ones that we're actually talking about replacing. And if you could just go back up to the east facing the part of the Shantyville, that definitely right there. So none of those windows have one of the windows is replaced with a door, which is the one on the left. They're not, the one in the middle is like a window that's been replaced, and then the other window with the two side lights is a completely different window. You can see that they added the decor over the top of two windows that were there that they just tore out. And so none of, I think that I guess my argument for it is that I would like to put in windows that are going to be consistent all the way around, that are going to look consistent with the architecture. We've done this before. We did it. If you go up and down Main Street, there's a number of different buildings that have metal clad windows that have or aluminum clad windows that have a similar design. One building is, of course, 601, which is my other building. We also did it on the Judge Reynolds building. Then we redid the siding exactly. We had the siding cut so it matched the original siding. We redid the trim around the windows so it matches the original. So with all with the blessing of the state historical and with Chapin's, I think we talked to Chapin about it before that as well. Those are two projects. Also, the building right next to us before and after also has the same kind of windows. Also, the coffee shop that is the original coffee shop next to the Freight also has the same kind of windows. And so having those windows and they're custom sized, custom designed to exactly match the same detail as these windows, apart from the fact that they won't have to be painted every 3 years because they won't be painted. It'll be metal. It'll be flat on the outside. There'll be a lot of advantages to having it done that way. Obviously, in terms of insulation, newer windows are much better than single pane older windows. The way that we accommodate for these older windows, if we wanted to get that, then we'd put storm window over the top of them, which I don't understand how that makes sense in terms of the look of the building. and I've asked that question a number of times without any great without a satisfactory response in my opinion. The other problem with these windows is in terms of the codes of today, all of these are so close to the floor that they'll have to have a stop on them, and so they're not double hung. And so basically we would spend right now, and this might be an updated bid, each one of these windows would cost $6,500 to replace. And we'd be able to open them 4 inches and no movement on the top of the window. And so and it would be single pane, and so if we wanted to get to the insulation, we would have to put a storm window over the top of it. So there's a lot of reasons that, on top of that, it would take probably another year before I would even get any windows put into this building. The first floor is being designed right now to match, obviously that's completely been abandoned from the original picture. And we are having this Forms Plus work, do a design of the front from the first floor of that, both for Leadville Exchange and Manhattan Building to restore, to look as much like the original that we can have it. And when we're doing that, we're obviously going to put in new glass and new windows on that bottom floor, and we'd like those to look consistent with the upper floor and the upper siding, and I mean, really, save as much money as so we can restore that sign, which is the most historically relevant part of the building, right? So that's the gist of my argument for a certificate of appropriateness. Like I said, I've done this on other buildings. I don't think any of those buildings look. I don't think the windows look any different than any of the other buildings to anybody other than maybe the most critical of eyes. And I think especially when we're talking about a building like the Manhattan, has 4x6 asbestos siding on it, and that our goal is to take it back to looking as much like that 1906 picture as we can. I think it's a reasonable consideration. So that's.
And maybe just a little bit of context here. I think staff has been intending to schedule a work session with the HPC to talk about just window replacement in general. I think staff's job is to determine which projects that are being applied for are administrative projects, which projects need to come through HPC and the city council right now. And window replacement, just depending on where the building is located, how extensive the window replacement is on the building. That has been something we're trying to navigate. Right now, we do not have local design standards for anything outside of Harrison Avenue, just something we'll get to after our surveys are completed. But just especially in the context of like residential buildings and trying to balance affordability with people living in their homes here, locals living here in Leadville. Balancing that with what we have right now on the Secretary of Interior standard, the strictest interpretation would be that of those standards would be that you must hire an expert to restore every window if the window can be restored. That would be a summary of a strict interpretation of the Secretary of Interior standards. And so I think the staff has been meaning to kind of come to the HPC with some examples so we can kind of figure out what kind of interpretation we want to make on projects going forward that can help staff with making like administrative decisions. But this project came in front of us, and I think this was for a commercial project. I think this was a great example of giving the commission an opportunity. If we were to separate out residential and commercial, giving the commission a great opportunity to think about how we want to interpret the standards for commercial buildings in terms of window widths.
Yeah, thank you. Questions, comments for the applicant or for Chapin and Alex?
I have a question for the applicant.
Sure.
I just wanted to get some clarity on the window specs you sent, and I don't know if anyone else had a chance to debrief on the specs of the packet. You did have mentioned in here, I'm just confirming it's the same as you just said, you're not going forward double windows upstairs. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, right. Currently, those are not restored. That's why. So if you have it, and I would have to, and they have to be tempered. They will have to be tempered glass anyway. But you can only lift it up 4 inches, and then there's no way to move it down. If I put it in double hung, you can move it down from the top, and so you could actually get air.
That sounds great. Just wanted to confirm I didn't hear completeness. And the other thing I need to draw attention to is that the interior frame is still wood unfinished.
It is.
I thought that was a strong point, you know, like needing long-term rental records and also a lot of these buildings. The consideration of the commission, you know, that's flat on the outside, but there's still, you know, wood, you know, wood, elements to the windows on the inside. I think that's a great second.
I also noted on that spec that it's no tint windows, which is what the Secretary of Interior recommends. And did I read that
And
correctly?
there's no tent, and I think that one of the, you know, I have seen window replacements that have been given that are obvious. And one of the biggest things is the depth of the window, and that's one of the reasons I put it in there a number of different times. If like, if for some reason it's closer to the exterior or more inset, then it does set it off. But that's one of the things that, I mean, that's one of the things that's custom about this window. I actually took down one of the windows that's covered up in there and through the sash and everything, so it'd be exactly the same. In fact, I would argue that if I put that window in and you walk by, I don't think you would, I replaced one out of the 9 of those. Which one? Wow, that's well, yeah, other than, I mean, there is the one thing that you can't, you know, to somebody that's really, you know, if one of them was different than the other ones, the one thing that you, of course, would be able to tell is of the reflection of the single pane window versus the double pane window. But that's, I mean, it's the reality of.
A couple of quick questions, if that's okay. So the windows we see on the west side, those are original to 1878.
West,
Facing
They're what?
Original to 1919, that's as early as you can die.
so on the west side, those ones right there, so the ones, I mean. Yeah, maybe 1919, the ones that are on the 3 on the left, as you're looking at the picture on the north side. Those could be back as far as, you know, whatever they originally built the building, because that's the gable part of over the Manhattan building, and that was the actual first construction. But those honestly look like the newer windows. I think that those are the ones that have actually been replaced at the same time.
Okay, so you think those are replaced at some point in time anyway?
I do think those ones have been replaced, yeah.
Okay,
But they were replaced with the original style, which is.
Yeah. right.
That is what the original window would have looked like. And it doesn't look like from the siding in the 1919 photo that the only thing that would trigger restoring a window rather than replacing it with a modern window would be if it's an arched top window.
Well, there
Nobody
are,
manufactures those. They are on the side.
yeah, the side does have arches
But
over.
it doesn't look like they were ever arched windows on the west facade, on the Harrison facade.
But do you think the windows on the north, where there is an arch, do you think those are originally arched windows?
Yeah,
Chances are good they were.
Okay, but your intent's to put in, to sort of match what's on the current west side in the same spot.
for the current one, so.
Okay,
And I think that it's also significant to point out that, so if you go to that, if you go down a couple Chapin to, these ones again, the one right there that's coming up. So you can see that these don't even match, I mean, they do match in size and so forth, but those do not match like the same window. They have 2 lights instead of 4 lights. They don't have the, that in the middle. And so like they do have those arched, but I don't think those ever actually have arched windows in them.
Doesn't it look like
And that's what it is, too. It almost looks like they built the brick or the concrete over the top of it.
Yeah. that opening?
And it's the same way if you look at the south facing wall, those ones that are like in that brick where you can still see right there. It's the same way where it's like I think it's the same way. I think that they actually built the brick around that, the wooden framing, yeah. Because those are certainly old windows, when they would have changed to.
I can confirm both styles happened. Sometimes you would be art pane, and sometimes it was framed in wood.
Well, the concern is now that there's nobody who will manufacture an arched top window. It has to be a custom made window. So it is phenomenally expensive.
yeah,
And if it was on Harrison Avenue, it might be an argument, but even being adjacent to Harrison Avenue, it's a really difficult argument to make, to try to go back, especially when the styles don't match all the way around the building to start with.
well, you can tell it's a different edition in the back there.
Right, is there any chance that you're considering at least removing the panelized siding on the top half of the western facade? Because if you look at the windows are all proud in the original photo, and the windows are buried 3 or 4 inches.
In the siding, in this original cedar siding. I mean, I tend to. And I mean, that's going to be another expensive part of taking down that panel siding in order to.
I mean, even just on the second story there, that's gonna be such an amazing improvement, right? For the street, but particularly for your building.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%, and I'm excited to do that. It's gonna be.
And if you take the windows back to the original width, then it's not necessarily gonna, you won't have to uninstall and reinstall the windows when it's time to redo the siding in the front either.
Because these windows, the siding is just put right over the top of the old siding.
And I was gonna say, they say that you can't prove it, but I know that the old 5-inch lap siding is there underneath that siding.
Yeah.
That's at least on the western facade.
Yeah, and I think I can prove. So. It's funny, because yeah, like if you go on to like that side of that field before and after, and you can see like where, I mean, it's.
You can still see it in certain places. It sure be nice to see that when you replace the windows, but I understand it's a budgetary consideration too.
It really is, and I don't.
It's an avenue. But I think those front rectangular windows are original to the building. If you count the cornices and you count the windows and look at the spacing in the 1919 photo, everything matches up to the way it is right now. On the second story only.
On the north.
No, on the west.
The orientation.
Those are, if not original, they're absolutely original style. I don't think that those were originally archtop windows. So the archtop windows that are there have been replaced at some point, potentially with framework. You could argue that they're on a side street and that they are part of the facade, but I don't know that it's necessarily a win to try to go back to arch windows. We just did the 3 on ours. They were $10,000 a piece to restore.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that. I'm just
We couldn't
curious.
possibly, I mean, there was nobody to make a new window. It's impossible to do with an arch top window. At least it was impossible for anybody that I ever spoke with.
Well, I'm not an expert on window condition, but I spent a lot of time today just on the street looking at the windows, and they look like they're in pretty rough shape to me. I'd be curious what the advisory members thought, if they'd had a chance to look at it yet, or.
Well, this is the same window that you put in 601.
It's actually a little bit, it's actually even a little bit nicer window because it's custom made and to make sure it matches that depth.
Right.
It's a little bit easier with 601, because we were replacing a window that had been replaced by the Historical Society already. So,
Right.
But yes, ultimately it is.
And once those windows got painted, it would be really hard for you to tell the difference.
601 Harper Lane. Yeah, okay, yeah, I think that was the very first project that we did. as a-
Right,
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah, but, I think about the windows that. If you could explain where and what windows that you may have heard that you know were windows but are no longer. I guess that's what I'm.
You got, that if you go to the north facing wall, the 3 windows that we talked about possibly being pushed. One more down, right there.
Oh.
So in between, like you can see, like, to the left of the furthest one left is another spot, and it just got covered over. And then to the left of the other one, right next to there, to the furthest right one, there's also another window right there. And it's kind of cool, there's like a bullet hole through one of them. There's something there. It is pretty crazy, like, I mean, that's in my romantic version, but
Right.
there's something.
Essentially just to uncover
All,
the existing window openings and replace those windows.
in replace it with the same stuff.
I'm not building any new openings.
No, and I'm looking for is how many openings do you think are there that are covered up now that you would be bringing back?
Just those 2.
Just these 2, okay.
So that means that the 5 on that particular wall are asymmetrical. They're not symmetrical like they are on the west facing side.
Yeah, which is weird, right? Like, I mean, we did open up you know, to try to look for another window, there's no other window, it's just like. I'll decide just to skip that, but there is a wall right in between those two as well, and so I think that's probably.
Line up with the interior there, sure.
And so are you proposing to uncover those as part of this project rather than waiting for your larger sort of rehabilitation?
Necessarily. I guess I didn't think that through, to be honest with you. I wanted to get the approval to be able to put those same windows in there when we do recover it. And so I guess I would like to do it on the same part of this project.
Yeah, and is your goal just to go ahead and do the windows and sort of get the insulation and whatever before doing the however long the rest of the project that is gonna take?
Yeah, because the rest of the project is going to obviously take a lot of time, a lot of money, especially going through grants, and it's like, it's gonna cost a lot more time, a lot more, if I had inhabitable apartments in the and these windows, without replacing these windows, it's just like these apartments are all but uninhabitable. And so it's like, you know, every month that goes by, the project costs me another,
Yeah.
$1,000 or $6,000. And
Yeah,
The intention is to reinstall the new windows in exactly the same depth they were originally. We're not gonna bring them out to the current siding. We will leave exactly where they are.
exactly, yeah.
and then my only other question was, it seems like it's mostly second story windows. I wondered about this one sort of horizontal window that seems different from the rest. Is that gonna be replaced? And if so,
So, you know, that, I mean, I was just planning to replace that with the exact same style.
it's the same as it is now.
That it is now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and that's one, the only reason why. I guess there's a part of me that would kind of like to change it to the original, but I don't think it was ever different. I think that's how it was.
That's just how they
Yeah.
smashed it in there at some point.
The original framing below that as well, and I think that that's one that perhaps when we take off that siding, I mean, I'd love to just go grab and pull off that siding, but the problem with that siding is it's asbestos, and so it's just like, that's going to be, that's going to be part of the time.
Yeah,
But if we take off that part of the siding and below there, that, you know, that might be left till that final project. And in fact, the windows on that front corner might, those two windows right there might be left till that final part of the project, just because that's the apartment that we don't need windows in a second.
yeah. Any other questions or do we have any comments or guidance for turning this into an official COA?
Being tempered and being double.
Updating.
I'll make a comment. You mentioned the storm windows, and I did read in the Secretary of Interior standards, they almost recommend putting them on interior, which is something I'm gonna be struggling with in my own home, which seems a little.
The problem with a commercial structure and interior storm windows or even exterior storm windows is storm windows as a rule are not openable. And so they prohibit egress in case of an emergency. So storm windows are not a great option, interior or exterior on a commercial building at any time.
Right, and I question it on residential, putting them on the interior, so
I certainly
I just
Yeah.
commenting on that, I just saw that today.
Yeah, yeah. And we did do, I walked it with Natalie from Storm Plus Word Plus. I got the one that gave me the bid for the rehabilitation of the windows. And, you know, they were explaining to me, they put the storm window on there and they were talking about the possibility of putting it on the outside or on the inside. And I was just like, man, that just, I mean, I guess for me, it just doesn't make sense, you know, like if what you're, you know, I mean, I see the old church and it has those big things, it's like you have these beautiful windows and like a big piece of plastic over the top of them. Make that building better. I just don't get it. And maybe I'm missing something, but I don't get it.
But double hung insulated, tempered glass, low E glass. Exactly the same footprint and exactly the same silhouette as those windows. There's no benefit not to replace it. I mean, at least from an HVC standpoint, there's not a benefit there. And once they're done, as the applicant mentioned, you'll never know that they were done.
Mhm. Yeah, to me, this.
If he was taking out arched windows on the side and then trying to replace them with square windows, then that's 100% an argument for restoration on those windows. But it's already been done, and it was done a substantial amount of time.
Yeah, to me, this seems like a reasonable project, and I'm extremely pleased to hear that there are larger rehabilitation efforts in the works.
Just get rid of that front side.
When you see them taking down on that side eventually, you can just tell people that I'm just removing it, just so we can really start with an outrage.
Would you paint the Schlitz sign on the side of the building? That's the coolest thing ever. Or one side.
No,
It might be.
it might be something that they would like to see, you know, just like, I know.
Go see money.
It's like at the table, yeah. Maybe some remnant of that on the.
As unfortunate, that part of it is all covered, well, we'll see, when we take it, yeah, it's a ghost.
Yeah, and you mentioned you are pursuing tax credits and other things for the project.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And then do we have anyone online with questions? Steve, are you there?
Yes, he's there.
Do you have any questions or comments, Steve? I don't want to rush past you or forget you.
No, actually, you all were very thorough, and I appreciate you identifying me. And again, I apologize. It seems like I faithfully are always running a few minutes late. So, but
That's fine, Steve.
yeah,
Thanks
I think
for-
what's that?
Oh, I just said that's fine. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, definitely. I think what we all have going on right now, I mean, is making a huge, I think, impact and getting visibility, you know, across the board. So I think the commission is definitely going to be, you know, seeing different things in the coming years.
Great. Thanks. Any other questions or comments or things we need to talk about for this?
You look like you're thinking.
Yeah, yeah, I'm just, so aluminum clad windows are acceptable for, I mean, it's not a contributing structure, but, it's also, they weren't making aluminum clad windows back when the building was built. So this is,
No, but there's no preclusion for historic renovation against modernization as long as you're true to the original style. And we've already approved aluminum clad historically replaced windows several times on Harrison Avenue. And these are gonna be painted, you know, not anodized aluminum, but actually a painted finish on the exterior. Just like was done at 601. And did you use the same type of window on Judge Reynolds' building?
We did, exactly the same.
Yeah.
On Judge Reynolds' building, and I guess I don't think, I mean, to the point where, you know, that with those windows, I can make the battens and all of the trim around the windows exactly the same width. The only difference is I won't have to get up on a ladder every, you know, 3 years and try to paint out those things, you know, or have a bad paint job on every 3 years until, you know, it's getting into the last of the window. And so I mean, I understand your point that it wasn't, you know, an original material. I think it can reflect the original intent of the materials and the style and the look of the materials.
I think that
if it was a contributing structure, then the standards would probably be tougher, right?
In this case, I don't see any difference at all, only because you can replace like for like. You are changing materials to a more modern and energy efficient material, but we're not changing the style or the street aspect of the window.
I do have a rule here from the Secretary of the Interior that addresses this under the recommended placing example non-scope windows that are compatible with the historic character of the building, or reinstating windows and openings that build in, so you're supposed to build reinstating windows that can cover in, and replacing, you know, windows. So that's where it speaks to
Have.
I think the premise is that the windows should be too deteriorated to repair for that to apply. But I'm in agreement with Joey on most of this. Do we need to sort of take a vote to,
No,
I mean, we've done
Just a
that.
work session this time to
Yeah.
recommend.
Okay.
It's a work session, but so yeah, just want to be 100% clear here for the applicant. Is that after this meeting, the applicant would then use the information they've gathered here tonight to understand whether or not if they were to submit a COA application with the exact same scope of work proposed, if that application would be approved or not. And understanding it still has to go to city council. So just be very clear with your final comments, to be fair to the applicant, about just indicating how you would vote on this application. You're not held to that, but we certainly, the applicant is paying for this opportunity to get any of those concerns communicated, so just be very clear.
So in this case, to make another point, so that everybody can understand, on the, and I don't know the name of the building, the old Chinese food restaurant, those are all arched openings, and all of those windows have obviously been replaced with smaller, incompatible vinyl windows at some point, and then the rest of the opening has been covered with plywood. I would have a very different argument about those windows than I do about this building and these windows, where we can prove at least back to 1919 that we're going with a substantially identical style shape window. There are several buildings on Harrison Avenue that have windows that were very inexpensively replaced, probably back in the 1970s, and that would be a different argument than these are, at least from me. So I wouldn't have the same, you know, if that particular building came in and said, these are the windows that are out, this is what we want to replace them with, I would have a very different answer. But I can justify this very easily.
I think we also have some leeway because they're second story windows. And the fact that they're not as visible and prominent to the building.
That particular argument I would disagree with, because people traveling through town and appreciating the buildings are actually getting more visibility of the second story windows than they are of the first story.
Okay, we might, but
Besides.
I'm just saying there are guidelines that suggest second story windows. There is more flexibility in how you handle the replacement.
Then, good argument. These will end up being more visible on the building, but you're correct, that the actual historic facade, the old original entrance, when can be restored is probably more important.
Then maybe just one final thought is keeping in mind that in terms of the Secretary of Interior standards, you know, those are broken down by the types of projects. You have preservation, restoration, and this is a rehabilitation project. So there are different standards for rehabilitation, which is most of the projects that we see, versus a preservation or restoration project. And, you know, the key words, and we've actually, our code amendment last year actually adopted the definition from the Secretary of Interior standards, but rehabilitation summary is making a building compatible for its current use or new use without compromising like the character defining features of the building.
Yeah, I would vote yes. If this came before us as a COA, I would resoundingly vote yes.
yeah, I would say that to me, it fits perfectly in the character of rehabilitation as Chapin just defined it. Updating for modern uses, but respecting the historic character of the building. Yeah, Steve.
Yeah, I don't have any problem. I just was asking a question for my own edification.
Yeah, the windows are they're a tough case, yeah, often.
They are, and I
They
think
present a lot of details and problems.
you know, with dealing with these old buildings, I think my head always goes to, what are you gonna uncover when you start? Cause if you don't know until you start this process, what you're gonna find. And that's why my question was going to, if you already know about, window openings that were originally there, are we gonna get those open again? Cause that's,
Yeah.
you know, and that's kind of where I go with, you know, we're not gonna know, and they're not gonna even, Bill's not even gonna know till he rips that siding off about that, trying, you know, that rectangular window and things like that, I guess my thing is always saying, if you uncover some window openings or door openings, let us know. That would be great to restore them. So just trying to figure out anything, otherwise, I don't know what questions or what help we could come with when it's nice of a project that. So I guess.
And one last point, just on the windows, just on restoration in general. This building is thick framed with 2x4s, with no insulation. One of the easiest ways that you can make this building more energy efficient is, one of the only ways that you can really make it more energy efficient is the windows. There's very little that you can do to bring it up to code on the rest of the building. I mean, even taking it down to the studs, it's a formidable task, but the windows can make a massive improvement in the building.
Yeah,
From an energy efficiency.
yeah, that's a good point. And yeah, I would like us as a commission to always sort of keep in mind modern practicalities. Let's see, have you received, do you need anything more from us in terms of
I guess I'll-
feedback, or do you have questions?
See and double checking about the next step and. So.
Oh,
Yeah, it's my understanding they'll like to get this construction completed as soon as possible, so the next step would be submitting a certificate of appropriateness application, scheduling that for bulk hearings at HBC and city council. But Bill, it sounds like based on tonight, you have a reasonable assumption that this COA would be successful with the HBC recommendation of city council.
Okay. Excellent, and then, I'll be seeing you guys, there's two projects that, I'll just give you guys a heads up, that I also probably come before you for the roof as well. Like there'll be like a slight change to the side, like we need to raise it up a little bit so we can do something about the drainage. So, those are the two things I want to get done this year.
Just a quick clarifying question in terms of the process when Bill submits a CMA application. Is there any additional information beyond what was submitted tonight that you would need to make a recommendation? In other words, I'm assuming that you do not need the applicant to submit full architectural building elevations, specifying, in other words, the pictures can suffice for terms of what is existing, and manufacturer specifications for the windows will suffice for what is proposed. If this project was a full exterior modification and restoration, we would require siding replacement, et cetera, we would require building elevations. There's a significant expense incurred, and the applicant is already planning to do that through grant funding for the second phase 2 of this project. But the applicant is not intending to do building elevations for just window replacement.
My only recommendation from the Historic Preservation Commission's standpoint would be that any openings that were uncovered, like the other 2 openings that you made us aware of, that in the process of restoring the building, that no original openings are covered up. Does that make sense? And that it can only be a recommendation, but if you uncover more windows, you'd have to see more windows, but we wouldn't want to cover any windows, even windows that we're not aware of, in the future.
Right.
From a historic preservation standpoint.
I would agree.
I was gonna say no.
that
would be about it.
I'm fine with his word that it's a like kind replacement. I can see on the description of the window from Anderson that it looks the same. And based on that and the pictures, I don't think I need any additional information.
Okay.
Good. Steve, do you need anything else, do you think?
No.
Okay.
Thank you.
I appreciate you guys' time. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, thank you. These work
Thanks for
sessions are always
restoring
great.
that building. That's a.
Right.
Okay, HPC picture, once again, oh, no, that's fine. It's good to have it on there just to remind us that someday we might have every single person here. Let's see, we haven't talked any about our goals in a little while. Do we have anything to say or to think about in terms of our goals? I think we're making progress on all of them.
Only the. Whether we want to try to do a bilingual element of the public meeting.
Mhm. Okay.
And you've already addressed that.
Anything else from the commission?
Skipped over the public comments.
I know, I'm gonna circle back. It's the very last thing.
Comment before public comments. if
Yes.
possible. On a completely separate note, the city has a survey out currently about a potential city sales tax initiative. They are actively trying to get more responses to that. It is out there. I can email it to everybody if anybody's interested, but they're trying to get as many public responses as possible, so it's only open for the next couple of days because we're trying to get to a certain number of responses. We don't have that many yet, so please be aware that there is a sales tax initiative survey out from the city of Leadville, and all the responses are encouraged.
And he's given the city of Leadville's homepage, it's a banner at the very top.
And you are more than welcome to send it out to, it's only for city residents, but you're more than welcome to distribute it to city residents. If anybody knows anybody else who might be interested in a response, please make it available.
Okay,
As well as the PV swim survey that is out there.
Correct. Yes, but only one of them comes from the city,
Right.
but both of them are available and everybody would love a response.
okay,
Great,
great.
just in terms of staff notes on our upcoming meetings, I currently do not have any kind of CAA public hearing or anything, or work session scheduled for August 13th. Our next meeting, the great thing about the work session we just did tonight is that gave us a main agenda item to focus on, so we're going to be trying to find those opportunities for work sessions. And it's a benefit for the applicant because they have to pay half of their fee goes toward the work session. They can use the next half of their COA fee is credited toward the to the COA. So we have some incentives out there for people to come and do work sessions. So I'm going to try and get something scheduled for August 13th. But that's rapidly approaching. This one was actually fast track. This one was a week and a half, I think, from when we submitted. So Alex just scrambled to get to put together a staff board and finish that up. So that was great tonight. We had a meeting tonight. Really, this project was something we want to support. So we're going to keep trying to do that. But right now, I don't have anything for August 13th. So if you have any ideas on things we should put on that agenda, please let staff know now, or just send us an email. We'll be trying to put that agenda together.
Okay,
And
Laura?
well, I would like to apologize for no minutes. I did hear the recording and I do apologize for no script. I can't believe I forgot the script.
Oh, it works out.
Completely forgot about the script, but I do obviously have to like 9 almost, it's almost ready. And then what I'm working on now is doing the most recent one and one from February. And in the next few weeks, I should be able to get them caught up. So there may be some meetings where you have 2 or 3 minutes to approve, and I'll apologize ahead of time, but we absolutely right. We've got to get those caught up, and those do have to go to our DOT. I usually send them as soon as they're approved. I send them to Lindsay, and she hasn't gotten 6 months, so.
Gotta go around with just planning department staff. In thinking about 5 or 6 weeks, Alex goes full. He's 3 days a week right now. So obviously there'll be more capacity, more see his full time. And then Andrew, he's in the busy season with helping the streets department with everything that you see on the roads right now. And so then coming up and going into September and October, his workload significantly reduced from streets, so he'll be able to help the Historic Preservation Commission building. So we're anticipating here going into the fall, more bandwidth to get commission related agendas or items thought up, and that goes for plans and commission. So
I would like you guys to keep in mind and stay on me as your staff person, that we do have to have all of these minutes ready to send for our annual report, which is in October. So please stay on me, but yeah, I have got to, we've got to get caught up, and the more I hear you guys talk about it, the more I really want to get them done. But now hopefully the fire department service all their events, and we're not gonna have another wildfire in this county. Somebody, and I should be able to get them. So I do apologize.
Oh, no problem. Great, thank you for that. Let's see, anything else? Any public comment on items not on the agenda? Okay, well then I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
1 second.
All in favor? Okay, the HPC meeting